Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Good evening, everyone. I am C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. I'm excited to have you here with me. I'm always excited to have you here with me because this gives me an opportunity to not only teach, but believe it or not, learn as well, learn right along with you. And this evening, when I was thinking about, earlier, when I was thinking about what I would prepare this evening, I was thinking, like, how do I get people to understand that when you're transitioning to a plant-based, a vegan lifestyle, or just a healthier lifestyle that does occasionally include meat protein, how do we bring in plant-based foods in unique ways, in ways that we would not really think about it, that are delicious? And I thought about cabbage. I think cabbage gets a bad rap. Many of us grew up eating cabbage one of two ways, either boiled to smithereens along with some meat or something like that, or super salted and fried, right? Those are kind of the two ways that the cabbage are traditionally cooked. When I think about cabbage, I think about it as a carbohydrate, and I think of it as a complex carbohydrate. And I said to myself, why does cabbage always have to take the place of a vegetable, like formally as a vegetable? Why can't we use cabbage as we would use pasta or rice or something like that? Let me tell you something. The food pyramid is all good and well. But there's something that happens in our culture in particular where we are made to believe that certain foods belong at certain times of the day, right? So for breakfast, it's usually you hear like eggs and sausage or bacon, some kind of toast or pancake or waffle, right? Lunch is usually a sandwich with cold cuts, or if you're eating healthier, you're going to have a salad with a piece of fish or chicken. And then you go to dinner and you have your rice or you have your pasta, you have your vegetables, and you have your protein. That's how we're supposed to eat. Why? Why can't we have cabbage in place of rice and pasta? For that matter, why can't we have kale in the morning along with some tofu for breakfast? There's no reason. We've been programmed to believe that we have to eat things a certain way because lobbyists get in there and they talk to the FDA and they have this relationship, and it all boils down to money. So I'm here to tell you that our focus should not be what the FDA tells us or what that food pyramid tells us per se, but what our body needs and getting it in however we can get it in. So this evening, I am going to be making a garlic, ginger, cabbage, and carrots. But this is going to take the place of rice or pasta or any kind of simple carbohydrate. Now, the one I'm fixing this evening kind of has an Asian feel to it. The recipe that we shared listed olive oil, but I'm actually switching that out for some toasted sesame oil. But for example, if you wanted to give this cabbage an Italian flair and you wanted to season it like you would pasta, you could use fresh basil, you could use oregano, you could use sun-dried tomatoes, and then you would use your olive oil, right? And you just stir fry that up. There's a little bit of oil in there, salt to taste. You can use fresh rosemary or dried rosemary, and you have a delicious dish. You can use some tofu, some grilled tofu on it. If you're still eating meat protein, you could do a grilled chicken breast. You could do some lovely grilled mushrooms or some other type of vegetable. and it is so filling, low calorie, nutrient dense, and most importantly, delicious. So I've talked enough, let's get started. So we have a beautiful head of cabbage here. Of course, you don't have to use green cabbage. You could use red cabbage. Of course, you know the color will bleed a little bit, but no problem. If you prefer that, that's fine. We just want to make sure you use cabbage. And for that matter, there's all kinds of varieties of cabbage. Some have a little more water than others, so keep that in mind. But this is what I'm going to use this evening. So if you can see, I have some cabbage here. I have some organic carrots. I have some fresh ginger root. I have onion. I have scallions. I have some red pepper flakes. I have some garlic, and I have some dried thyme. Now, I don't know if I'm going to use all of that, but there's a lot on that plate. Now, the reason I pointed out that these carrots are organic is when they're organic, you don't necessarily have to peel the skin. You just can scrub them really well and use them like that. It's up to you. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to get started on our onion. And the key to this dish, I've talked to you all about taking care when you cut things, that we want things evenly cut. And again, this should be a question, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you all. We do that because we want things to cook evenly. And it also contributes to how the dish looks at the end. Now, this one we really want to pay attention to because, again, the cabbage is taking place of pasta for us, okay? So we're going to make sure that we're very deliberate with how we cut things. So I'm going to cut some slim slices of onions because we want these onions to really melt in the dish. We don't want them to be big chunks. We want them to give flavor and a little bit of texture, but we want them to just blend right in, okay? So there we go. And you see how thin I've cut those? The key to this, it's pretty thin. The key to this is a nice sharp knife. Now, I am a tool freak in the kitchen. So if you don't have a sharp knife, you can always use a mandolin. I love mandolins because everything's going to be the same size, the same slim cut, but make sure you use a mandolin glove. Never, ever use a mandolin without that glove. No matter how professional or how used to it you think you are, it will cut you. Okay, so we've got our onions here, and I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the pan. Now, those of you who are oil conscious, you don't have to use oil. You don't have to use pour oil. You can do a little spray oil if you want to. It's up to you. I'm going to put my onions in the pan. And then we're going to get to our ginger and our garlic. So when we do our ginger, I believe I've showed you all this before. When you peel your ginger, you're going to want to use a spoon. If you use a knife, you're going to get rid of so much, you're going to waste a lot of your ginger. So you hold the ginger root like this, and you just gently pull the spoon across, and look at that. See how that skin is coming right off? That's how we peel our ginger. Now, ginger, it's funny. It's definitely spicy. And some of us can tolerate more than others. So if you're somebody who likes ginger, go for it with this. I'm suggesting like two teaspoons of minced ginger. If you think you can take more, take more. It adds a lovely, lovely flavor to this. Fresh ginger is just, it's such a delicious addition. So I peeled that. I'm just gonna cut this up pretty finely. And then go back over it. Spoon out the way. Hope you all can see me. I'm going back over it, and I'm just gonna chop this up as fine as I can because you want the flavor in there, but again, you don't want chunks. Another option for this is to use ginger powder. If you don't want to go through all of this, of course, it won't give you the same effect. You have a ginger flavor, it won't be as fresh and as bright, but you can do that. Or you can use a ginger puree that I've shown you all that you can get in your grocer's produce section. So you can also use that. So I suggested about 2 teaspoons of ginger, and I probably actually have a taste. Again, it's to your preference. So I posted on my page tonight that we were going to be doing, I'm just going to put that right on top of those onions, that we are going to be doing a giveaway. And so I hope that my watchers are here and they're ready to win. We're going to be giving away some agave spices tonight. We're going to do 2 tonight. Now I'm doing our ginger, and then we're going to do 1 a week after this. But because we're kicking it off tonight, we're going to do 2. So I hope that you all are watching, have been paying attention and are ready to win. Okay, so that was about 4 cloves of garlic. I'm just going to scrape that right into the pan. So far, let me turn up the heat. So far, we have our onion, we have our garlic, and now we have our ginger. And we had about a tablespoon of sesame oil. Here's our cabbage. You can really cut the cabbage any way you want to. I'm cutting off like the top portion of it. It's a beautiful, firm cabbage. I've already rinsed it, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut it as thin as I can. Again, the key here is a thin knife, a sharp knife to cut it thinly. Again, you can use a mandolin. I have even seen some commercials, I'm sure you all have seen them as well. It's like this handheld shredder, and it seems to do wonders. So that's another option for this, and they definitely go a lot faster than I'm going. But take care as you're doing this. You really want to get this as thin as possible. You don't want big chunks because you want this to cook evenly. You want an even distribution of the garlic and the ginger and the onions. So that's why we're doing that. When I get down to this small part here, I turn it again on the side, and then I start cutting it thinly again because it's easier to handle it that way. So my first question tonight, our first giveaway, is going to go to the person who can tell me what were the first 2 main ingredients for the inaugural show of Reclaiming Your Health. The very first show we did, I'm just going to put this in my bowl right here. The very first show we did, what were the 2 main ingredients in our dish? That's starting to cook, so I'm just going to move that around a little bit. Okay, and so here are our carrots, and here's a trick. What are the 2 main ingredients from our first show? So here's the trick. I use a vegetable peeler to actually break down my carrots. So look what I do. I go just like this. I go just like this. It gives me strips, nice long strips, instead of those really short sticks like if you buy it in the store. You know how they look. They're like little sticks. I want mine to have a little more body. And I love the brightness and the sweetness that this adds to the dish, the color and the flavor. And I just go just like this. Just that simple. Just make sure that your peeler is sharp. Just like that. Every once in a while, one of these will escape. And then I just turn it the other way. And I go like this. Has anybody answered my question? What were the first two ingredients from our very first show? The two main ingredients. Nope. Our very first show. What were the two ingredients? Yolande said mushrooms. Yolande, your answer was wrong. So I am going to do, I'm not going to do all 4 carrots, but if you are preparing this for like a side dish for, 4 people or a main dish for 2, you would definitely want to do more carrots. But this is just for our demo tonight, so we're going to start. All right, that is smelling so good. You could also add to this, you see on my plate is mushrooms. You could also add that, but we're not doing that tonight. We're just gonna go with our simple Asian-inspired ginger and garlic, cabbage and carrot. No one has answered. My feelings are hurt. Who all is on here? Let's do a roll call. Who all is tuned in tonight? Nobody's here? Just my producer and Yolande. Okay. Well, Yolande, you've got time to figure it out so that you can win. Our first question, what were the 2 main ingredients of the very first dish that we made on Reclaiming Your Health? All right, so this is smelling and looking lovely. They're starting to get translucent, which is what we want. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my thinly sliced cabbage. I'm just going to add that in there. Ooh, that looks so pretty. Looks and it smells delicious. And you see these, like how this is? It's like pasta, right? It's like pasta. And then I'm going to add my carrots on top. Let's move these out the way. Now I'm going to sprinkle some of my dried thyme over this. I'm not going to add my red pepper flakes, nor am I going to add any salt yet. So cabbage is going to spring some water. The heat is going to cause it to sweat. So that's what we're banking on. That's why we're not going to use, I'm going to try to avoid using oil. You definitely can. If you feel like you want to add a little bit more oil to this, that's fine. If you want to use a little bit of vegetable broth, that's fine as well. Just a little bit though, because you just want to put enough in here to get the steam going. We don't want we don't want this to be, liquid. Is liquidy a word? I don't know. But we don't want it, whatever it is. And so as I was saying, this can be seasoned all kinds of ways. This is my favorite way to season it. And I'm just kind of tossing this in the pan. We're like over medium-high heat. I don't know how many of you have been with us from the beginning, but I believe, Stan, is this like our 30th show? Do you know what number this is? Yes, this is our 30th show. And let me tell you, I'm so incredibly blessed and I'm so incredibly grateful that Sam Royster, this is the Oakwood connection. For those who question if a Seventh-day Adventist education pays, Sam Royster, who I went to Oakwood with, knew that Stan Mackey was working on this project, and he suggested that Stan call me and have me join and do a cooking show. And I've always wanted to do one and always found a million and one excuses as to why I wasn't ready to do it as yet. And Stan called me and asked me if I'd be willing to do this. And voila, 30 episodes later, I'm loving joining you all every week for Reclaiming Your Health. And I've learned so much in the process. I've met some really great people, and we've created some lovely, lovely dishes. Okay. So I've stirred that around enough. Anybody want to take a guess what my favorite episode was of Reclaiming Your Health? Any guesses? You know, there's no reason, something just popped up on my screen, there's no reason that an entire meal cannot be made up. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you for joining us. There's no reason an entire meal cannot be made up of delicious vegetables. I mean, you just have to know how to season them. And one thing that I've said over and over, probably ad nauseum, is that all you have to do is layer flavors, build layers of flavor, so that that salt, when you add salt to this dish, it literally is like the finishing. Yes, the shish kebabs were a favorite of mine in memory of my aunt, but that was not my favorite thing that I fixed. But yeah, that was definitely sentimental. That was definitely sentimental. This cabbage is looking great. So remember, we used 1 tablespoon of toasted sesame oil. Okay, so that so far we've added 14 grams of fat and 130 calories from this. Everything else is cabbage, carrots, ginger, garlic, onions. That's it. Some thyme. So far, we're looking at this dish, and this is incredibly low in calories, but it's going to be really high in flavor and in nutrition. And as I said, we could add some broth, but I'm not going to. The water content in the cabbage, along with the heat from my pan, is cooking this very nicely. And let's see. Oh yeah, we've got time. Just gonna let this cook for a few more minutes. Now, again, it depends on how you like your cabbage. I like my cabbage a little bite. I like it with some texture. So I'm not gonna cook it. But if you like yours cooked a little more, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. And I'm sure you all are seeing just how easy that was to prepare. The most time-consuming part of it is those thin slices of the cabbage. And you saw how I had my little hack for the carrots by using my peeler. Stick with me, people. I got tricks. Okay, so now that I know that at least Phyllis and Yolande are here. Phyllis, I don't know if you've been watching since the very beginning of our show. This is our 30th show tonight. Do you know what the 2 main ingredients were in our first show? That's the last time I'm going to ask that. If you're not able to answer that, we're going to go on to our next question, because somebody needs to be blessed with agave spices. I want to make sure that y'all are blessed with the spices. You know, tonight I was talking to a girlfriend. She was here for a few days, and I took her to the airport. And she was asking me, how do you transition to a plant-based lifestyle and not gain weight? That may seem like an odd question because oftentimes when people transition to a plant-based lifestyle, people know it because all of a sudden they get really slim. That is true for some people, but for some people, it does not translate that way because they go from eating, um, you know, real bacon at breakfast to veggie bacon at breakfast, real cold cuts at lunch to veggie cold cuts at lunch, real chicken at dinner to, okay, you have not been watching since the beginning, Phyllis, okay, to, veggie chicken at dinner. And a lot of times, those things are processed, they are preservative packed. And, I come from the Seventh-day Adventist tradition where, we had our own veggie meat. And that was a mainstay. And I didn't realize until much later that those things were supposed to be transitional. You're not supposed to stick there. So what happens when you go from a traditional meat protein-based lifestyle to a plant-based lifestyle, but the only thing you really abandon is the meat, but you bring all the preservatives and all the processed food with you, it doesn't bode well with your body. And that's why people can take on a plant-based lifestyle and gain weight or not lose. French fries are vegan, potato chips are vegan, Oreos are vegan. There are a lot of things out there that aren't good for you that are vegan. So if you're stuck on the vegan label, but you're not working towards healthier living, you're gonna have an issue. Now, when you eat some meat substitutes, yes, it can be healthier, but it's not healthy-esque. And that's what we want to work towards. This dish tonight is an example of that we are eating things as close to their natural state as possible. That should be our ultimate goal. What can I eat that is close to how it was created as possible? Because you've heard me say this 1,000,000,001 times. When you do that, your body takes what it needs and it gets rid of the rest. When it's packed full of all these preservatives and things, that's a completely different story. All right, people. So our cabbage is pretty much done. This is how I like it because I still want a little bit of texture when I bite it. I don't want it to be runny and soft. Okay, actually, what you should know as well is that when you eat things that are al dente, that have a little texture, that's even better for your blood sugar because it takes a little longer to break down. And in breaking down, your blood sugar levels will not spike. That's something I bet you didn't know. So now I'm just going to do a sprinkle of my red pepper flakes, which is obviously optional. And now I'm going to use a little bit of salt. And I have this mushroom salt that I love. And I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top. It's probably about the equivalent of a teaspoon. I'm going to do a quick stir to incorporate it. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, and now we're going to plate. So I've got my bowl here. And earlier this evening, I prepared a little bit of tofu. What is it called? Yes, Renee, that is the recipe. But what were the two main ingredients? You answer that, and I'm hooking you up. And here's the next question. Here's the next question. So one of my spices is called Habesha spice. Who can tell me which cultures the term Habesha is closely associated with? Habesha, H-A-B-E-S-H-A, Habesha. What cultures is that term closely associated with? So now let's get back to our plating. This is our cabbage that is taking place, pasta or rice, or any of those things. We have a heaping helping of this cabbage that we're going to put right in the center of this plate. Woo! That's lovely. Taking that off. And I did some lovely tofu earlier that I marinated. That's beautiful. I mean, this is like a heaping helping. I don't think anybody would eat all this, but lovely, lovely. And of course, we have to make everything not only visually appealing, we've already got the flavor down, but we want to make it visually appealing as well. So I'm going to put some chopped scallions on that. And because we're having an Asian influenced flavor going on here, I'm going to put some sesame seeds on it. And pho. Ethiopia, wonderful. What's the other country? There are two countries, there are two cultures that are closely associated with Habesha. Take a look at this dish. Can you see this dish? Who needs pasta? Who needs rice? Look at this from the earth's bounty. We've got beautiful stir-fried cabbage, 1 tablespoon of oil, ginger, garlic, onions, cabbage, carrot. We've got some red pepper flakes in there, some toasted sesame oil, and then right on top, I put some tofu steak. Sprinkled it with some scallions and some sesame seeds. Come on. What more do you need? Look at nature on a plate. Eritrean, beautiful Phyllis. So Phyllis has won a gift from Afkave. You have won that. All you need to do is send a private message to the Reclamation Project, or you can send it to me and we'll be sure to get that off to you. And Renee, you didn't get back to me with the other main ingredient. There are 2 main ingredients for our inaugural Reclaiming Your Health show. Collard greens was one of the things. What was the other thing? You all, I have had such a wonderful time cooking with you this evening. Look at this. I mean, this is belly filling, earth's bounty. This is what we talk about when we say eat the rainbow. What more do you need? Really, like, what more do you need? This is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me. Renee, if you don't answer soon, you're gonna miss out. Are you there, Renee? Renee, I think, has left the building. If you figure it out, Renee, please send a message directly to the Reclamation Project or to my inbox. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. This recipe for the cabbage and carrots is on the Reclamation Project page and also on my page. Chicken? Renee, girl, please. Girl, bye. Girl, bye. Chicken? Chicken? Chicken, chicken, chicken. No, not here. Okay, so I guess we're only giving away 1 gift tonight. It's going to fill this teeter. Renee, well, you can have a chance again next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will see you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time for Reclaiming Your Health. Bye-bye.